Hello and welcome to week 7 of Business Skills and Social Work. I am going to share my screen and we'll get started.
This week we are in East chapter 8 and 9 and Brown part 2. For our learning outcomes, we're going to look at the culture of transformational leadership, explore daring leadership values, and examine the invaluable law of design, explore ambivalence in motivational interviewing. Transformational leadership is the process of engaging with, influencing, and being influenced by others in accomplishing a person or task. And part of that includes the organizational culture of leadership. Right? An organizational culture is just the set of the values, traditions, rituals, customs, systems, and language that result in behaviors that are embedded in the way that people participate in organizations, communities, and recognizing that each system has its own culture. When we consider transformational leadership, and we look at the head learner, the heart steward, and the soul meaning maker, the 3 parts of transformational leadership, included within this is the direct transformational decision making. And as the soul meaning maker, looking at how learning, communities, and conversations happen within an organization and its culture, while in the heart steward, we examine how do we enable others to act and appreciate inquiry. These are significant elements of organizational and community culture. There are 4 orientations that contribute to the types of organizational culture. These include power orientation, which involves leadership concentrating on the top, where fairness is valued, but rewards and punishment are the source of power. And then there's role orientation, where the organization is centered on a system of roles, rules, policies, and structures. When we examine achievement orientation, this is usually found in professional organizations where staff have specialized knowledge or skills, and they're rewarded based on their talents and their efforts in achieving the mission of the organization or the agency. And lastly, we have supportive orientation, where people take on many roles and they work together to accomplish the goals. And this requires trust, frequent communication, and a willingness to spend time together. Small and mid-sized nonprofits usually have support orientation. So transformational leadership means leading by building a culture of team learning. Transformational leaders understand the significance of culture, and they engage in that heart, head learning using their emotions and soul and meaning, and changing the culture in order to accomplish the work. Sometimes these leaders possess strong facilitative skills that engage head learning, heart emotions, and soul meaning. So when they're facilitating meetings, that they're making certain that people are reflecting with their head and their heart. Another practice of transformational leadership is vision. Vision is the image of a desired future. And part of vision is strategic thinking and strategic planning, which we're going to work on our assignment in looking at YSU strategic plan. It'll give you an understanding of how this shared vision and conceptualizing the vision comes to play. When we consider an organizational vision, there's the who of the organization, who will be involved in the process. That's essential. There's the purpose of the organization and the process of envisioning what the purpose will be, as well as creative and strategic thinking that is collective and shared with all of the members of the team. Transformational leader must be a learner, a steward of the future, and a meaning maker of purpose. Well, how do we practice and build vision and promote strategic thinking? This is done by conceptualizing and philosophizing. So when we philosophize, it involves identifying the common values and goals that will lead the vision. As a philosopher, the transformational leader considers why the ideas being proposed are important and which ideas become most dominant in part of the envisioning process. That's conceptualizing. It's looking at conceiving an idea or ideas that relate to one another and building these concept maps or graphic tools that allow an individual or a group to link together the ideas in a network structure. Sort of like what we've been using every week for the Dare to Lead. That's a conceptual map that Brene Brown did that put all of the concepts of daring leadership and connected them in process. This is what is done as a transformational leader begins to conceptualize a vision. The transformational leader sets the stage for vision and strategic thinking and is the facilitator of creating the process. Brene tells us this week that daring leaders who live into their values are never silent about hard things. This means they have courage and they know that they'll eventually fail, but they're still all in. They're not concerned with being liked. It's the kind of leadership that becomes contagious. And when we do this and we speak about the hard things, we encourage others to do so as well. Here is this map, the conceptual vision map or conceptual concept map of daring leadership. Let's consider, how do we change our thinking as a daring leader, looking at our inner critic that tells us that we can't do it or we're not enough or that it has to be done perfectly. The inner critic like hustles our mind. It's continuously trying to lead us to the thoughts that we are unable to do what it is that we're envisioning. So as this inner guide is fighting within us, we have to recognize the struggle and come to a realization that that's just a thought. It may not necessarily be the truth. And we can know that it's not true. And when the inner critic is showing up to sabotage our daring and transformational leadership, because the critic thinks in black and white. It also focuses on problems. It does not recognize or celebrate progress. The inner critic uses shame, guilt, and fear to motivate. And the inner guide uses desire, love, and compassion to motivate. So when you are looking to lead a team, you can know if your inner critic is the one trying to lead or the inner guide. The inner critic will focus on lack and scarcity and not enough. And the inner guide will focus on gratitude, what's possible, and what feels good to all people. Brene encourages us to know our values and know ourselves, because with no values, there's no me. I love how she says this, and that she encourages us to know our values and ourselves and how our actions are linked upon our values. Living into our values involves not just recognizing what our values are, but deciding how they direct the process that we take as a part of leadership. So do you know your guiding values? We can't live into them unless we name them. What are your primary values? What values define you? What is it that you are best at? How do you filter to make hard decisions? Are there leading principles? These sort of things are what we have to take into place and understand more about ourselves so that we can live out our values. In Dare to Lead, Brene Brown talks about how we live into our values and feedback. Know you're ready for feedback when you're ready to. And she gives this whole list. Living into our values is related to feedback, knowing when others are questioning if we really are being who we say we are, and giving that space and opportunity to have that feedback. Recognizing what it means to be brave and serve the work and take good care are primary principles in leading with organizational values. Being brave is about setting boundaries with others, leaning into those difficult conversations and meetings and in decision making, and talking to people, not about them. Serving the work is taking the responsibility for the community and the consumer's experiences. It's being responsible for the energy that you bring to situations so you can work to stay positive, and taking ownership of adapting to the fast pace of the environment. Taking good care is about treating colleagues with respect and compassion by responding when appropriate in a timely and professional manner, but also about treating yourself with care, practicing gratitude for the team and yourself, being mindful of others. This ends our varying greatly slides for this week. Takes us into Maxwell's law for this week, which is the law of design. To maximize growth and develop strategies. Personal growth takes preparation and design. You must look at self-growth seriously and look at it as a mission and design your plans to make it happen. To plan strategies for life growth, you have to consider keeping things simple, but keeping it to where you're challenged, right? So not oversimplifying things, but allowing growth to challenge you, and not placing your growth barometer so high that it's not possible to reach those goals. So it's maximizing on your growth and developing strategies to grow yourself, designing your life and your career, letting it be a just rehearsal that if you should fail at it, you try it again, right? But planning and multiplying what you're doing, capitalizing on the opportunity for growth, and knowing what areas you need growth in. Motivational interviewing is working with ambivalence. This includes the evocative questions, picking the flowers and providing bouquets, and exploring values. Evocative questions involve asking the why the person may change. So when we look at change talk and moving people from ambivalence, it's helping them to understand the why they want to change. Picking the flowers is paying attention to the things the person tells us about possible change, and providing bouquets when they change, offering those flowers back to them, saying, this is an area you targeted. This is where I see growth in you. Exploring the values is just like we talked about in the Dare to Read values and living out our values. Dare to Lead, living out our values, as also transformational leadership and living out our values. It's helping clients or staff, supervisees, to identify what's most important to them, their values that are most important, what it means, and how they are living them out. And as always, using the OARS as a direction to the OARS part of motivational interviewing to ask those questions. Below is a value card sort that sort of helps you get in place with what are your values and understanding what they are, so you can help yourself move forward and understand them as a part of motivational interviewing. That's it for this week. Thank you for your time, and I will see you next recording.